I don't know. I have this belief of like, if you look at Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci, like they were Renaissance men and they were scientists, philosophers, artists.
Right.
If you're in a space like design where your skill set has application to almost everything. I mean, if you think about the first biggest design, like the UX or product projects, it's like traffic lights.
Yeah.
You're just using a lot of brain power. So like coming up with strategies and ideas. You're driving ideas into people. Like how like cool is that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, that's really cool. Like you just literally get paid for your brain.
Okay, guys, today we had Osiris Santos on. Talked about his incredible career in UX, getting equity in startups, some amazing seven-figure exits, going back to the corporate world, and also balancing his side hustles, now developing AI bots. Great conversation. You're going to get a lot out of it. And yeah. Okay, guys, welcome back to the Tech Jobber podcast. Now, we've had AI experts, we've had UX product experts. Excited about today's guest because this guy combines both of those worlds, and he's doing some really interesting stuff that I want to discuss with him. Today we have Osiris Santos on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, so why don't you just give we're going to get into the particulars, but why don't you give kind of a brief overview of who you are and what you do for anyone that doesn't know?
All right, so who I am and what I do. So first off, I'm an artist. I started my career off as an artist. I didn't want to be broke because of that world. So I got into marketing and production world, and through that, I kind of evolved into UX as a designer. Since design's always been a part of my life. So if UX, visuals, really doesn't matter. Design is design.
Yeah.
And I've just constantly been evolving with design.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
my career, yeah.
So early on, you were, you say artist.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of painting,
Okay.
drawing, a lot of surrealism.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of my game.
Yeah. And at what point did you translate that from like the canvas to the computer?
Well, it always was a thing for me. Like the medium never mattered. So as an artist, I would play with different mediums. Like while I liked certain, like I like charcoal and I like pencil sketches and painting, digital once, that was just something that I just started playing with because it was just the new medium to start checking out. So
Yeah.
I got on Photoshop one day and I just loved it. And I was like, oh, I could create anything here. So let's start. Let's see how this works. And that turned into animation software, 3ds Max, After Effects. Played with a lot of that in the production world where I got to like learn the skills of production, everything from grip to almost everything in this setup here. But and then just a lot of animation and stuff. And then that just kind of elevated into the digital space with like web.
Yeah. Okay. So at what point, I mean, how did you turn it from, I guess just as a kid, you were just an artist. Like, how do we get to like the beginnings of a career? Did you go to school for this? Did you?
Yeah, funny. I did go to school after I was already working in it. As an artist, yeah. So I've always been into all types of art, visual, music. So when I kind of started giving up on like, not giving up, but just like changing direction of my artistry, I was always creating music, and I worked in the music industry for a while. So at Warner Music, I was around when like I used to work for Bad Boy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like around when like
these days.
Yeah, like around when like Young Jock and Cassie were hot and like making the band and all that.
Oh wow.
So I used to run with them for a while, and through that I started. Yeah.
Hold on. We gotta pause there. So you worked for Bad Boy Records. That's Diddy.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Trying to skirt the name.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So what years was this? This was early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s, like my early 20s. Yeah.
Okay. And so you were designing what for them?
I was actually doing marketing. I was running a marketing division, like a regional ops, like special marketing division. We do a lot of radio promo tours, like all those competitions you win on the radio, like
Yeah.
Live Like Jock Weekend, Live Like Diddy, and we take contestants out. We do a lot of events. At the time, it was like they were all dropping albums, so it was like promoting those throughout the southeast of the United States.
Okay.
And because we had a lot of autonomy to just create what we needed with street teams, with marketing teams, I didn't like the materials that were coming out. So sometimes I would just take it and do it myself.
Okay.
And, you know, it's funny how things show up in my life because, like, I get these waves of, like, I get to play with music, I get to play with art. And at that time, it was like, well, this is how art's creeping back into your life. You're getting back into your visuals.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. Like, I'm gonna go start my own agency. And like, I started working in like the production and film world, where I got to like really express a lot more of that in all these new mediums. Like, so got into like motion and graphic design and
Okay.
a lot of photography, editing, and photo manipulation.
So what did you do? You said animation. I mean, what
Yeah,
stuff
so-
were you doing? Who were you Who were your clients?
So some of the people I worked with out here was like Picture Perfect Productions, which is you know, shout out to them and 305 Films.
Sure.
And also I got connected with this photographer at the time, and we partnered up and we just started creating. He was also an artist, and we kind of were a perfect pair because while he did the camera, I did all the manipulations before and after the camera.
Yeah.
And that's where I really started honing in on my skills. So working in this production world, we started getting jobs for commercials, music videos, everything, including like Lil Wayne to T-Pain,
Wow.
Rick Ross, you know, around that time when, like after Katrina, when all that stuff,
Sure.
everybody moved down here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was like our heyday for a while. And through that, we just started branching out, working with, like getting back into the arts, working with some well-known Miami artists here, and also even raising our names again into that artistry world with like the Adrian Arch Center.
Yeah.
We did a lot of shows with them where we supported other artists. We had our own exhibitions and things like that. So we were just like mixed media, like playing. We used to call ourselves hybrid artists.
Yeah.
And that was what we coined for a while. So if that gives you any background on like how I approach skill sets.
Yeah. Okay. So that's now we're in like kind of later, early 2000s.
Like mid 2000s. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So what was? I feel like you get in with one of those artists. Now you have that, and now more want to work with you, right?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. And we were working with like the labels, the like different brands, everything from like Visa, Pepsi, you know, you name it. And so it was great from a commercial perspective. And then the digital work started coming in. It's like, hey, you guys can do this. And then the web started to change. iPhone 1 came out. And we were getting a lot more jobs around like, hey, this commercial we shot, let's turn it into a digital experience. Let's turn it into
What does that look like?
remember when websites started becoming more like video based and like big pictures and like things started to flow more than just buttons and
Okay,
like,
yeah.
like so you know, one of our first ones was like working with like Timberland shoes and Nike, and like they wanted to take their commercials and turn it into like a web experience that didn't feel like a typical website. And Pepsi Loot was my first app. That was like the UPC codes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, with like the cigarettes and all that. Like,
Sure.
So that was iPhone 1.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And I started getting more app jobs. And then from there,
You were one of the first. You were one of the first, like, kind of pioneers of that, I guess, at that point, right? I mean,
you know, I've never thought about it that way, but I guess so, because I was in like like iPhone 1. So
Right,
yeah.
right.
And you know, a few app jobs and digital jobs later, I run into some guy that had an idea, and I got into one of my first startups, and me and
Okay.
him founded a startup called Biz Happy, which later on we sold it to a subsidiary of Yelp.
okay.
So we had our first exit, which was nice.
Yeah. So what was that process like? The startup process. getting funded. I mean, this is all like
Yeah,
new
so we started with a
frontiers for
team
you,
of two,
right?
and it was funny because he was a business owner frustrated with what was out there already for small businesses. And he's like, how do we solve these very simple questions? My biggest question is, what time do you open, what time do you close? And then, you know, things like Yelp didn't have, I mean, it was brand new, so
Sure.
it didn't have the control that businesses wanted at the time. And what we did was we took advantage of like the push notification, and we were like, how do you give the power to these? We realized that small businesses had a very small budget. For their annual budget, it was shocking, the number. It was like less than $500 a year for a marketing budget.
Yeah.
Annual marketing budget.
Wow.
That's the average small business across America. And we were like, oh, well, how do we give these people value in a way that they can market on these new devices that everybody's on?
Yeah.
So this was like iPhone 1. We were already going to 2 already. And we took advantage of the push notification before a lot of people.
Yeah.
Before a lot of companies. And that was our secret sauce, which was not that crazy, but it was just
But
like,
you were just first.
yeah, we were just
first to
one
do
of the first to do that and allow the businesses to have control with that.
Okay, so they're a small business. Like, what's an example of a type of company you guys would help?
Nail salon, pizza shop,
Okay.
car washes. Car wash was like one of our first clients.
So, what push notifications for a car wash would people get?
Just deals, you know. Okay, so at the time, while the apps were becoming a thing, also like this was when all the deal websites were out. So
Groupon and
yeah, Groupon and all that, and then but you know, Groupon was kind of like crack, where it's like it's great, it was great, but for some businesses couldn't support the influx of traffic because the deals would outpace their revenue.
Right.
You know, like they were getting all this traffic, but they were losing out, and to the point that there's even stories where like a burger shop had to close because they outsold too many burgers. But it was a great deal.
Good problem.
But it was great advertising and
Sure.
marketing, but it kind of tanked them. So
Yeah.
we wanted to give people a way to like bring traffic, still have communications that major companies can build for themselves, but at a fraction of the rate. I mean, we were charging anywhere from, we had 3 plans. It was like $99, $300, and $500 a year.
Okay.
So we wanted to really fit into that pocket of small business.
And because you identified that was some people, that was their entire budget was
Yeah.
the 500s. You said, okay, well here's our offer.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
So people that were a little bit higher than that, then you know this fit them because now they can be in the App Store.
Yeah.
They can have a templated one-page website to market their business. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people still don't have a website.
Yeah, right.
So we were trying to give them all these basic needs for a business to have visibility and be able to like just market to the pocket of their loyal customers. So
Yeah.
customers that would save them now were able to get push notifications from those businesses and know when the deals were happening from the places that they wanted.
Yeah.
Their local, like our whole theme was Main Street. So
Okay. Yeah.
we had a whole Main Street like look and feel. So.
And how did you acquire those small business? Obviously, you weren't going door to door around the country.
It started door to door in Fort Lauderdale.
Wow, okay.
And we were just like trying to figure it out. Like the whole idea of viral stuff was coming out, so we played around with videos and all this stuff. And then we started doing the Shark Tank things of like raising money. And making deals with different groups. We had a deal with Subway that was pretty interesting.
Wow.
And then the Catholic Church was another one that we partnered with.
What type of push notifications were they?
Well,
they push
all the
out?
things that are happening on Sunday at sermon, you know?
Gotcha. Wow.
All the things that are happening, volunteer stuff throughout the week. Like they have stuff that they have to communicate to their communities as
Right.
well. And they have very captivated communities. So.
Yeah. So basically, you go to a company or organization,
Yeah.
I guess. In that case, you'd say, listen, you don't have an app. You don't want to build it. We got everything. You just enter this in. You get push notifications to your customers like that for $500.
Yep, that was it.
Wow. Okay.
And with some of these groups, the good thing about these bigger partnerships is that got us some like traction because they would mandate it to their organization. Like all of you have to do it now.
Oh, wow. So you're building up the user base.
Yeah, because then that helps you raise money. Because at the time, eyes were worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, that was, you know, when Silicon Valley was like, who has the users? Who has the users? And it was
Yeah.
like, and now that formula's still there, but it's changed a little bit. It's
changed
like,
a
oh,
bit.
who has the active users?
Yeah, right. Active users, and now they're actually caring about revenue.
Yeah. It's
Right,
like, oh, are you making money? Yeah.
right. So what year was this?
Oh man, this was, I want to say like 2010, maybe 2010 around
Wow.
there. Yeah. so-
Okay. And so Yelp comes in and says,
Well, it was a group that they owned, and we didn't know it was them. And there was another company that was being acquired with us. And I guess we just, you know, sometimes you just have to be mentioned in the right rooms.
so it was multiple companies were being acquired.
Yeah, and like kind of combined together. Like back in the day, like in retrospect, I look at like what companies were doing and investors were doing, and it was like, man, you guys really threw money at hype a lot of times, and we're like,
Yeah.
we were not trying to be that. We were like, no, look, we have revenue, we have this, yeah. So at the time, like they just it seemed like they were trying to combine different services together and figure it out. We got bought by this company, and yeah, it was just like I think it was just we were mentioned in the right room, and then we got the phone call.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get the call. It's an offer you can't refuse. And is it you guys walk away? We're just acquiring all the IP.
Yeah, we walked away. You know, I was also very young. This was like my first, you know, time playing in that space. So it was like also like lessons learned. And it's like in retrospect, it's like, oh, I could have done it. I could have done way better. And it's like, but also we were at a point where we were like exhausted.
Yeah.
You know, being in a startup is like exhausting. And yeah, we got to that point where it's like, yeah, let's cut it. Let's let them do the thing. And because we were just figuring it out from start. We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah. And it was just a two-man team the whole way?
Well, no,
basically,
we
or
grew
you guys
up.
started hiring people?
Yeah, we started hiring people. We started hiring other like salespeople, designers. We had like 2 engineers, and then we had different partnerships. So we grew to a team of about like 9 people at our peak. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. And so basically this company that is part of Yelp comes and they're just waving I mean, we don't have to get that specific.
No, I mean,
7-figure check at you guys?
It was in the 7 figures.
In
yeah.
the 7 figures.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
your entire team had equity, at least a little bit. Not everyone.
No, it was just it was besides the investors, only 2 of us had equity. Like
just the founders.
Yeah. Yeah, because everybody got paid, and we made sure everybody got paid. That's one thing that we definitely prided ourselves on. It's like we did not want to be one of these companies like that played this role of like, you know how people hire interns and it's like just a way to get free help. And it's like we were very against that. I'm very against that coming from the music industry and seeing how that works there.
Yeah.
I didn't want to take advantage of people. So we, you know, sometimes I would not even pay myself, or we wouldn't pay ourselves just to cut the checks. I mean, it was, you know, it gets rough in the startup world. So
but it's for that, you know, it doesn't always work out for everyone, but
so we made sure we took care of everybody. So
okay, so now you went from not a lot of money to now the 7-figure check. I mean, what's the next move?
Rest.
Okay.
Like no actually. So after that, I was kind of hyped on the feeling of all that. It's like, oh wow, we did a nice thing. And then I worked at a slew of a few other startups.
Okay.
Some flopped, some did well. I went to a pet startup, which was like a marketing company, and we did a lot of drop ship stuff, and we did really awesome. We were we had one of the largest lists of pet owners in the world. It's still around today. It's called petplace.com.
Petplace.
We sold it to 1-800-PET-MEDS. Wow. And I just came in at the right time when where I was building really like products that were elevating the company to just keep revenue coming in and build more revenue streams. And, you know, besides our stores, we had our free website, which was our acquisition channel, where we gave you, we had some of the best qualified data and information from veterinarians on pets,
Yeah.
all types of breeds. So people would come to us for the free information. You give us your email, here's some free info.
Yeah.
And then now that you're on our email list, we'll promote all these products that are coming to us that want to be promoted.
Yeah.
That we happen to sell in our store.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we were
So
kind of
once
like
you know someone's pet may have an issue, you give them the information, but then you say, well, you can also.
yeah, it's like, hey,
They need
everybody
this
that
too.
owns like a Doberman, hey, we have these toys that are great for Dobermans. We have these, so,
Gotcha.
and then we would launch companies too. Like, do you know that pet channel that exists now? It's like it's a channel that you could watch, like you could have your dogs or cats watch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were one of the first to come to us, and we helped launch them.
Yeah. Just with all the user
Yeah,
data.
it's one of the premium channels you could get on cable now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that was the kind of thing that we had. And then like 1-800-PET-MEDS, they wanted our list and,
Sure,
and our
of course.
database. And the website still exists today, and now they do the same strategy with their
Yeah.
stuff. So
Okay, so once you kind of get that, you have that startup exit dust on you.
Yeah.
Like, are now people just saying, okay, well, here's what he did here. Why don't we bring him in and give him a little piece? And is it just kind of easier to?
it was easier, but I was fried after a few startups. Like I think that was like my fifth one. And then I was just like, I'm tired. I don't know what I want to do, but like, and I'm young. So keep in mind, I'm like barely, I just turned 30 something.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop. And I got this awesome career. I'm also a designer, a UX designer, and like that pays well.
Sure.
So I don't want to say I took a break, but I went to enterprise. I went to corporate.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Let's go here and learn some other stuff.
Yeah.
And so I worked at different companies like in leisure, travel, like Royal Caribbean, Interval International, like that's so Marriott hotels, and like got some experience with like the bigger brands.
Yeah.
And that almost felt like a vacation coming from a
Right,
startup.
right. Yeah.
Because when you work at enterprise, things are a little slower. But the cool thing is you get to dive deeper. Like it's not like an agency where you're just like killing it and billing it. You get to dive deeper into the product cycle, the development of the product. You really dive into like the human behavior research of how do we really refine this? Because, if you think about it from a manufacturing perspective, anything you build, the bigger the audience, the more value that every little piece, like if we're talking about this bottle, like if this logo's messed up and they're printing a run of 1 million,
Right.
that's a very valuable logo now.
Yeah.
So you can't mess that up. So like I really enjoyed that part of like diving deeper into my craft and creating products like where you're really dotting your I's and crossing your T's like at a very deep level.
Yeah. And what were some of the other differences? It's a massive shift. You're wearing 1 million hats at a startup to, okay, we need you to do this one little thing
Yeah.
and just do it well. I mean, what'd you like or not like about that kind of
At
work?
first, that was hard for me
Yeah.
because it's like I just wanted to get it done, and in a startup, it's like every second is money. Like you got you're everybody's clocking the money but at an enterprise, you're getting paid. Like your checks are coming. You don't have to worry. Hey, just
40 hours a week and you're done.
yeah, like work on this one page. It's like, so I had to learn to like pace myself and slow down and kind of fall into the rhythm.
Yeah.
And at first I thought that was a bad thing, but then it's like, oh wait, no, I get to like really breathe. And I really started to love UX and design because you get to, it's cool to like be an entrepreneur and all that. And I love that. But it's also really great when you can like just breathe into your craft.
Yeah.
And like, oh wait, like I don't have nothing to do right now, but what I should be doing is actually just contemplating on this thing.
Yeah.
Not the whole thing, just this one piece of this thing of what I did today.
Right.
And that took a while to like set into that.
What were there moments where obviously the startup, some that you owned, and founded, and then others you were, obviously a major piece of.
Yeah.
Like, were there moments in the corporate world where you were like about to speak up, like, wait, they're just paying me just to do this little piece. Like, I'm gonna bite my tongue here. Like, this is what they want me to do. I mean, was that weird for you?
I had to learn how to balance that.
How to navigate.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm not one that holds my tongue a lot anyway. So, so
you would still speak up.
I would still speak up, but I had to learn how to do it more strategically.
Yeah.
And I realized one of the things I do well, and I think this is sometimes when people meet me, they just like they get overwhelmed. Like, how do you do so much? One of the things I never stopped is I never stopped being an entrepreneur, even when I was in enterprise and corporate. Mm-hmm. Like, at the time when I jumped into that, I owned a gym. I owned a CrossFit and powerlifting gym in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
So, which didn't need a lot of my time because I had a partner and I was just doing like the marketing and a lot of the acquisition stuff. But yeah, so like that was my balance of like that's where I found my balance, because just like creating art, like you have to find like what works for you. Yeah. Sometimes you're just creating for hours or days, and then you have like a few weeks or a month of like I'm not doing nothing. And
yeah.
So that was like the way I balanced it with corporate, is like I always had my outlets outside. Like my idea flow was never stopped, so I just found other ways to express them.
Yeah. Yeah. So at this point in your career, do you still consulting on other things? Are you taking on side clients for UX work always, while you have the corporate 40-hour week job?
100%.
Yeah. And I think that this is a great example, and Osiris brings up like kind of amazing career path for people in UX. Yeah, you're getting the 40-hour week. A lot of it's very high. I mean, I'm dealing with people at 100 an hour UX, 40 hours a week.
Yep.
I don't want to say no stress, but a lot less than you had the startups.
For sure.
They're also taking on the side clients.
Yep.
And you could be kind of picking and choosing, right?
Yep. And well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like you get to choose now, like, because, typically if you have a job like this, contract, full-time, whatever, like I had a few full-times, but I really loved the contract stuff. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are like, oh, contract, no security. I was like, it's the same thing, guys. Right. It's like, oh, no insurance. I was like, if you do the math, it's actually cheaper if you know how to do it right.
Right.
So once I learned that, it was just more like, yeah, I got to choose what I wanted to work on, and I only chose like the stuff that was cool or like a new challenge that I was like, oh yeah, I want to take that on.
Yeah.
So I was building different apps for like new startups, but in a very siloed perspective where I didn't have to take on all the hats in a startup. I got to play like, oh, you just want the design, you want the strategy, I got you. Like I'll walk you through this. So it was more of a consultant role, and that's one thing I like about UX and design in general. Like I feel like seeing how people practice it in corporate, not enough people branch out to like feel their full potential of what design is like. And designers, I hope they don't come after me, but designers are pretty pretentious in our language, in the way that we present stuff. And I always try to keep it humble, and also just like one of the things I do in meetings a lot of times, especially to ground people, is I always pull up the textbook definition. Yeah. And people forget what that is when it comes to design. It's like, yeah, you're just sketching and solving a problem. That's it. Outside of that, the art, the creative stuff, like this is the textbook definition. So I always try to keep to that. And then if you keep to that, then you see how wide you can go. Yeah. And yeah, I see like a lot of narrow paths in design. Like sometimes they're like, oh, I'm looking for an iPhone designer. I was like, the hell is that? It's just a designer.
Right, it's a designer.
Any designer that knows their job like will understand whatever context. Like yeah.
Well, so anything back to the corporate world that you worked on that we would know, or was it mostly internal kind of designs that people for apps or?
Well, both. I've worked on a lot of internal stuff and external stuff. Like, so.
Like, what would we have seen that you've done?
So music videos, you've seen music videos for sure. Like
That
around
we've
those
done.
times.
Yeah.
But from a design perspective, I mean, if you go to any of the Marriott resorts out in Orlando, like the whole sales experience is something I designed.
Yeah.
If you ever make a complaint at either Royal Caribbean, Marriott, or Interval International, I helped design the complaint tracking system, which is like where you go solve all your problems anytime you have an issue. Like that whole process is part of something I helped like transform. And I was like a lead designer on. At Disney, let's see. Well, maybe not everybody, but at Disney I worked on like residuals, which is like how people get paid across the world, like all the talent in the world that gets paid by Disney. I worked on that system. And the beginnings of Movies Anywhere, which is now Disney Plus. So
so you were designing the look and feel of
what
and eventually became Disney Plus.
Yeah, and just the strategy of how we deliver like the experience.
Yeah.
Because I was more on the experience architect side then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So where does this take us now?
So startups, enterprise, and then I went back into my own business. I worked at EA also, which was like a dream job for me, which came at the same time I started another company in the cannabis space. And so the laws were passing here in 2014. We were getting ready to launch here. They didn't pass for some interesting reasons, which we don't have to get into, but, and we started our path and we went to California. At the same time, I get a call from EA. I was like, oh, this is a dream job. And it was a contract, so I did it. I ended up doing it. I was like, I'm going to do both. And until we get this kicked off, and it's like, I told my partners, they're like, yeah, we could do that. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And they allowed me to do that. So shout out to them. Thank you.
So what'd you do for EA?
I was an experience architect. So I helped design one of their first design systems. And funny enough, I worked on I had to own a lot of the sports experiences. I don't play sports.
Sure.
I don't play video games. So just putting that out there. But from a UX perspective, you just have to be good at your job.
Yeah.
And
so someone fires up Madden, you were designing what that looked
menus, I helped redesign, or I was lead designer on the, Madden ratings. That's where you get all your stats and stuff to check on your players. I helped design that at the time that iteration of that year.
Yeah. It's very controversial. The players are always complaining about, I'm a 94. I should be 96.
And it was crazy how that process worked, because they had an actual dude watching and creating the stats and everything.
Yeah.
And, so just how that was delivered, I helped. I worked on that. Worked on Star Wars. Worked on the NBA relaunch. Created a bunch of supporting game experiences that we created on web and mobile. We created one of the supporting promo games where you can take your mobile phone and now that becomes a ball and you play with your laptop screen. You don't let go of your phone, but it was a way that we were working with different technologies in the phone, using the gyro in the phone to feel the wrist movements. So I was part of the innovation lab. So we just were able to find problems, solve them, and just come up with new ideas. So we were in a hackathon all day, which was fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and then on the side, I was building this cannabis company.
Wow. How were you able to juggle both? I mean, what was the demands at EA? It was just 40 hours a week and done? Or?
Yeah, and also it was, EA is really good about look, you have ideas, come to the table with them, and also get your work done. And it's a pretty lax environment if you're getting your work done. We don't care where you're at. You're in the ball pit over there in the ball pit conference room. Cool. You're playing video games in the theater.
Yeah.
Cool. Whatever. Is your work done? Cool.
Yeah.
Did you solve the problem? Are you engaged with the team? Great. That. So it was, as long as you were, bringing it, it didn't really matter.
Where was this located?
Oh, Orlando. I was at the Tiburon
Okay,
Studios.
EA is based in Orlando.
The Tiburon studios are.
Okay.
Home base is Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you were in the Orlando.
Yeah, yeah. And I went to Vancouver a few times, and awesome campus, like
Yeah,
crazy campus. So I mean, Tiburon Studios is a cool one. They still have a lot of cool stuff, but it's not like a custom building like
Vancouver.
headquarters. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how important is that for you in UX where, I mean, it's like you're working on, now you could have the most amazing internal app. Oh my, it has all these great menus, features, and it looks so clean, but no one sees it.
Yeah.
I mean, how important is that at least a couple times to have something where you can say like, oh, here's what I've done. Boop.
You know, at first, I found myself working on front end stuff for like consumer facing stuff. And then I started getting a lot of jobs for internal stuff. And at first I was like, oh, it's not as cool. But then I realized I was like, this is actually cooler. For me, I enjoyed it more because the internal stuff, I feel like, I mean, you're helping people do their jobs.
Yeah.
You're helping people like you're like, for me, as someone that is like, I'm always taking notes of what I'm doing. I don't just do a job and then like I'm out. Like I make sure I learn. I take those learnings and apply it to my stuff because I have my own businesses.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I see how they're doing it.
Yeah.
Now I can see how I could. Yeah. So all that internal work has just been setting me up. Like when I was in the cannabis space, that was probably my biggest challenge ever, because now we weren't just like digital. We were like full scope. We were a vertically integrated company. So we did manufacturing, distribution, like compound pharmaceuticals, sales. We had physical retail spaces. So now it's not only like creating like little apps here and there, it's also like, what are the processes that you implement? So like we talk about agile and design, right? And in production, how do you implement, that comes from real world manufacturing. So now I'm here getting trained on Lean Six Sigma and Agile. I'm like, well, these people have no context to this, so I got to step up and do this.
Yeah.
So I went in and kind of corporatized weed. They hated me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, like everyone's like, hey man, why are you making this all strict here?
Yeah,
So
it's like, this is how we have to run this.
yeah, it's like, well,
run it like a business or what?
yeah, so that's what I was doing in cannabis, is like bringing new processes, bringing new tools and perspectives on how do we evolve in the evolution of legalization, because it was rugged. Like I went in and I felt like I was like, oh man, I have to dumb myself down because like everything was, you know, people that used to work in cannabis or work in cannabis is like, you don't typically see them in these other environments.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It is what it is, you know. But you know, now you're teaching people new skill sets that they would have never had access to, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how cannabis was. It was just I had to flex everything I've learned internally, externally, into all these new spaces. Like, how do we create systems for cultivation to keep that? I mean, we had a pretty large cultivation space. Like I think we had over 200,000 square feet, but we only operated at our peak. We were operating at 80,000 square feet.
Wow.
Which most people say all these big numbers. That's why I preface it like we had this much, but we only use this much.
Yeah.
A lot of people say we have 400, but they're really growing out of 10.
Yeah.
You know, like so, because scaling is really hard in that product. And we had some amazing growers, so and botanists. So like we took all that really serious.
And so how were you kind of keeping an eye on this while you were still working in Orlando? Was it?
Yeah, so I would just
or?
travel back and forth, and it was cool to like. No, it wasn't. It was in California to Orlando. Wow. So luckily, I had really good partners that let me stay in my lane, and that's important. I think it's like that's one of the things I've learned in entrepreneurship, and even like all this is like, what is your lane? Try not to take too much, and like stay in your lane. Like you can help in these other areas, but like do it from your lane, not like. Trying to take on all these hats, because I think, you know, we've gotten to the place where it's like we think it's admirable to wear so many hats, and sure, it's cool that you could do all that, but like, what are you actually good at?
Yeah, and just nail that.
Yeah, so that's where I really started honing into that. So my partners were like, yeah, you stay here, like you stay in your thing and like do your thing. So and that's what I was doing, like developing processes, finding ways to create better software, because in cannabis nothing existed. So we had to invent everything from hardware to software ourselves.
Yeah.
Or find people that were doing similar to create it for us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like building everything from scratch.
Yeah.
Basically.
Like even the machines that were separating the weed and all that, like, and measuring it, like those were other engineers that we partnered with. They saw an opportunity in our ecosystems, like, can we build this for you guys? And then, you know, we'll figure out the deal stuff from there.
Wow.
So
yeah, I feel like, you know, your career is so like kind of like diverse experience wise to that point that you picked up skills in the startup. Okay. Then you went running
it's
your
all
own
design.
thing. Yeah, it's all design, but you're kind of becoming this like Swiss Army knife of design. Okay, I went corporate, but I picked up some new skills.
yeah.
And that skill acquisition is, you know, obviously we're going to talk about what you're up to currently, but
Yeah.
I feel like that's so key for people's careers that a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah, they don't. I don't know why. That always blows my mind.
Yeah.
Even like with recruiters and like the interview process, like my background could be super intimidating to or confusing to a lot of people. Because I don't know, I have this belief of like, you know, if you look at Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci, like they were Renaissance men and they were scientists, philosophers, artists.
Right.
Like Salvador Dali would you know, I want to see what the inside of this animal looks like. If you ever read his autobiography, just cut him open and start exploring. You know, it's like, how else are you going to figure things out?
Right.
And if you're in a space like design where your skill set has application to almost everything. I mean, if you think about the first biggest design, like the UX or product projects, it's like traffic lights.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't realize that, like, that's where a lot of like experience design, you know, was born. It's like, how do we manage the traffic flow?
It's literally user experience, right? People in traffic.
So having more experience and more context helps you become a better designer, I think.
Yeah. And so when you walk around, do you just kind of see everything as, are you like seeing the Matrix type thing?
You know, at some point, yeah, like, you can, and you got to like learn to turn it on and off because it can be overwhelming.
Oh, this menu sucks.
Yeah, and then you just want to, like, if you're like me, like, I want to help everybody that I can, and you got to turn it off sometimes. Yeah,
be like,
all right,
kind of pissing people off.
Yeah.
So, well, let's kind of get up to what you're up to currently.
Yeah.
I mean, did we miss anything in between?
No, I exited from the cannabis space and I took a break for like a year and a half, just trying to figure out what I'm doing. I did a bunch of fun experimenting in worlds that weren't typically like my norm.
Yeah.
I played in like the biohacking space and offering like, started playing with like sound healing and stuff like that.
Wow.
And just back in my art, like doing photography and photo manipulation and stuff. And then recently I got back into consulting, from contract to consulting, which is same but a little different.
Yeah, sure.
Similar but like different outputs. And I've just been doing that, and then also just partnering in new ventures and just kind of exploring where I want to go next. And so the consulting is great because it keeps you paid, and I still get to do really cool deep work for big companies. Like right now I work with TIAA. It's a investment and retirement company. I worked with a company called Arthrex, doing surgical robotics, software design and hardware design. So very different context.
Yeah, wildly different.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you're solving problems, and that's what design is. And then recently I partnered up with this company called Epic Talks, which I'm sure you know about.
Yeah,
So,
we know them well.
Yeah. So
Shout out to Melissa Wagi.
Yeah. Shout out. That's the homie. And
so what are you doing for her? So for anyone who doesn't know, Epic Talks is an event company in Miami. She does monthly events and has kind of like a chamber of commerce group. So what are you doing for her?
So for Epic Talks, we're just taking it to the next evolution. So now, you know, right now it's the monthly events. And then there's another product which you're familiar with, the Inner Circle.
Yeah.
And that's a more elite membership. So now we're trying to add value to all these places and bring more of a digital experience attached to it. So we're building an app. I won't go into everything that's going into it, but we're building an app and we're bringing some new goodies for the Inner Circle and for a new tier that we're starting, which is a more entry-level tier for people that just want to be a part of this community, have support in their entrepreneurialism or their business or whatever upskilling that they're trying to do. We're introducing some AI tools, some accountability tools as well, and opportunities, so that way everybody can stay sharp and keep elevating and growing in their business.
Yeah.
And then we're also introducing Melissa's coined method, which is the one connection away, the OCA method. And we're really integrating that and starting to weave that more into the experiences, because that's what Epic Talks is about. It's about helping you grow in your business and and network, and grow your network. So we're creating more tools that help you do that. And we have interesting things with AI coming out that we're gonna be offering in both memberships at different levels, so that entrepreneurs could just move faster and get more things done.
Yeah. And you mentioned AI. How did you start playing in that space, and what's that been like?
Well, I've always been a little bit of I've been a technologist like my whole life. Like I've always, I think, are you familiar with like human design?
Yeah.
Okay, so in human design, I'm a 1-3, which is I need to know all the information, and I'm a huge experimenter.
Yeah.
So that is my life, and and I think that's knowing that I was like, oh, that's why I've moved like this throughout my life. So that's interesting. So with AI, when AI starting to be a buzz a few years ago, I started like playing around with it, experimenting with it. And maybe like a year and a half ago, I started going all in. I was in the middle of a lawsuit with a company, and I was using AI as my legal assistant.
Okay.
And it was so good that like I won the case. And the opposing lawyers were like, yeah, you did really well, like to do it on your own. Like you should think about being a lawyer. I was like, that's hilarious.
Wow. Little do they know they're being replaced.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I just taught this thing these books, and I've just been teaching the context to help me out with these. I mean, it wasn't like a big thing. It was like a mediation type of process. So it wasn't like this big fight, but still, that got me interested. And then I started playing around with creating some custom products and solutions for people as I got asked about it, because I don't do a lot of marketing for myself. People just know who I am, and I've been, shout out to like the OCA method in that sense. Is like building your network is really part of your net worth, and it doesn't matter if I just build relationship with recruiters or agencies. Like there's always stuff coming in, so people are just always asking me, what are you doing now? And AI just started becoming more of a thing. Fast forward, I joined this other group called the Collective, which is also
Shout
part
out
of
to Jonathan.
Yeah, shout out to Jonathan and Aziza. And that really lit a fire under me, because there was a lot of people like working in the space, and sometimes just starting the thing is all you need. Like sometimes you could start a school or a course, and that's all you need to just get that fire lit, because now you claimed a responsibility to yourself. And like now you got to show up. It's like, I paid for this, I invested in this, whatever that investment is, money or time, and I take that serious with myself. I don't like to waste my time. So I went full on, and I just started creating a bunch of apps for myself. I have my own assistant that now is a white label product that I sell to other companies. Okay. Shout out to Gail. I called her Gail.
Yeah.
But
so how are you using that on a day-to-day?
Oh, so she books my appointments. I'm still weird with that. Calling it a thing. So, books my appointments, jumps into all my recording, like my meetings, because I'm like I'm weird, taking notes for your own meetings is like annoying.
Yeah.
So she takes all the notes, helps me process them in the way that I need to have them processed and outlined for my projects. Also just helps me do proposals. I mean, you name it. There's a lot of context that it's actually a series of bots that I string together to make it feel like one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I use it just to move faster in almost everything that I do. Everything that's not like the intuitive artistry stuff.
Yeah.
Like all the admin stuff, like just helps with that.
Off your plate.
Yeah. I need to write an email and it's like a salesy email. It's like, I'm not a writer. Yeah. So, and also coming from enterprise, one of the things that I've learned there is the amount of data and structure that you have internally, like that really switched, because I've worked on a lot of design systems as a designer and content design systems. And that's really like giving me a lot of context on how to structure like really solid bots for clients, where I'm sure you've heard like, oh, they built this GPT, but it's a little wonky sometimes. It's like, I don't have a lot of wonkiness, and if any, in a lot of my bots lately, because of I think that adding that context has really taken them to another level.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's where you see. So I mean, I love how you can combine. Now you have the AI knowledge.
Yeah.
But you have that front end design.
Yeah.
As well, because some of the AIs you play around with, it's like doesn't look so great.
Well, and that's the thing. It's as a designer, you get to understand context in many different realms. Because you work on a lot of different projects, you understand process, you understand how products are built, what's the process of that product being built. And a lot of times you have these people that have, like, they create the bot and they're like, yeah, you are this, you are an amazing this, and that, and this is what you do. And that's great that you tell it that, but then like, how does it have context to that?
Right.
So as a designer, you get to learn. Every new project, you get to learn a new context. So it doesn't matter for me if it's fintech, orthopedic surgery, video games, media. Like, because I have that context and understand the processes in them, I could articulate what I wanted to do better. And so. Yeah, if you're a writer and you're creating a writing bot, you have an advantage because you have context to writing. Yeah. But if you're not a writer and you're just saying you're a great writer, this thing is just pulling from the net and pulling a bunch of stuff So and
shitty.
Exactly. So and I've noticed having your data set be molded in a certain way, that's what's really from a UX perspective, that's what's really helped a lot of this is I know how to address it from a process perspective, from a context perspective. And what's the data that I got to put in there to build that skill set for those bots and automations? Yeah.
Okay. So what do you, when you give some, obviously we've seen you've built an incredible life off UX.
Yeah.
So I know that's obviously it's AI, UX product. These are what people are looking to get into these days. Why don't you give some tips for people that are thinking about it and say, this is how you should go about it?
I think the simplest place I start from is just be useful.
Yeah.
Be useful in anything that you do. If there's as a designer, because you're there to solve problems, don't get so hung up in learn how to chameleon yourself into these spaces and listen and speak up to the things that people actually care about. Because I think in design, one of the things that people miss out a lot is we're not always the greatest salesmen.
Sure.
That's a skill set that you need as a designer. You need to sell your ideas. You need to sell concepts to C-level executives, your product people. That's a skill set that goes over a lot of designers because they start explaining things and really in the weeds and all these techie terms and very designy terms, which we have a lot of big multi-syllable words.
Prototyping, wireframing,
keep it simple, right? Keep it simple for your audience because they don't have the context, right? Learn how to speak the language of your circles. Like if anything I've learned from working on design systems, I've worked on about 6 design systems in my career. That's quite a lot for, I think that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
And the whole goal of a design system is to get the same way you approach AI in a way, like try to teach it this thing systematically. The whole goal of a design system is to get everyone in the process, in the org that's part of this process of creating this product to speak and flow on the same language. So, you know, as a designer, it's you are like the undercover leader of a team.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. So you have to be like a chameleon type leader in these teams, like learn how to speak to engineering, learn how to speak to development, learn some of their terms, like so you can and sometimes learn how to give them suggestions that they wouldn't have thought about it, because sometimes they're so closed in their spaces that they haven't really, you know, they appreciate it when you're like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. Like that, you know, a lot of times they're not going to have an, like, I think some people are scared because they're like, oh, I don't want somebody telling me how to do my job. It's like, no, look, I'm researching. I have time to research. Here's something I found. If it's helpful, you know, they appreciate that a lot. When you create that kind of relationship, you have a lot of power of product.
Okay.
Because then product is usually looking for your guidance, because you're the first line of defense. You are the architect to building that building. You're the designer in that. Like the designer in like architecture has to like collaborate with engineering and all that stuff. So it's like, if you think about it the same way, then you have enough context to start building and guiding like product. And product, what they care about is business. Yeah. Right? Like yeah, they want a good product. They want all these things to be, they want to support you, but they want you to understand like there's a bottom line. Yeah. And I think I work with a lot of designers that understand that, but sometimes that gets lost. Like is that there is a bottom line.
And that you have to know your audience internally.
Yeah, and while we are advocating for the users, we also have to dance the fine line of like, hey, the business wants this. Yeah. Yes, advocate for the user and go hard for that, but like find the happy ground, and if you can't meet it right away, find the way that you can scale into it and give them that path, because they will appreciate you. I've been on projects where, you know, product is stressed out because they're going over budget and stuff. And when you can understand that and like show them like, hey, yeah, we got to step back, but here's a way that we can get to your goal. And that way you could save your budget or whatever the business case is that they're stressed out about. Because everybody has different worries on your team. And when you can kind of see that, what their motivations are and like play to that, that's, you know, that becomes very powerful for designers. Yeah. And I find like that the best designers really know how to balance like and pay attention to what everyone's needs are on the team, and like find that is your job as a designer. Like
bring it all home.
Bring it all home. And like, even though you may not have the leadership title, you as a designer, you are the leader of that team. Yeah. Like I wholeheartedly think that. Yeah. And feel that.
And what about, before we go home, any technology recommendations for young people to be looking at right now? We're in May 2024.
Yeah, definitely get some context on AI. You don't have to be an engineer, but get some context on like some kind of language like Python or something like that. Yeah. You know, MySQL, like just the basics, so you can have some context, because those languages like really branch out to a lot of different areas in startup and enterprise that are really beneficial, and you can solve a lot of problems for teams, even from a prototyping perspective, very fast. Yeah. If you can display that. Like that has helped me become now almost like now at these companies I consult at, I'm the subject matter expert on AI. Yeah. And I'm like, am I? But it's just, I did the work to go learn more than what everybody else learns. And doesn't mean I know, I mean, there's a lot of people that know a lot more than me, but just get some context on these technologies, because this is where the future is going. And it's not that you have to, you know, I'm not saying ChatGPT or any of this, just learn the basics of what these are, how they work, and then how you can apply them to different contexts.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of a massive opportunity for people because it's not like there was a master's degree. When it comes to AI, it's kind of the Wild West right now.
Yeah, the speed of learning that is available to you is insane right now. Like you can, like me learning AI, like it was just mostly me. Like, yeah, I took a few courses here and there, you know, but it was like I just had just a little bit of context helped me like fly with it. It's like, oh, okay, if I do this, then now I could do this, and then the AI itself could start teaching you about itself because it knows itself.
Right.
So, so yeah, just a little bit of context can make you dangerous with AI. And I mean, and from a money opportunity, everybody's hungry for this right now.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to go build things on their own. They're not builders. So as a designer, you are a builder. And if you can own that, like you can build so much. Like as far as revenue, if revenue is something that's going to drive you, like you can make a lot of money just making like simple things for people, solving very simple problems. A lot of people, one of the biggest things that I solve for a lot of companies right now is as simple as writing bots that help you write in a number of contexts, from sales to emails to web copy. You get good at just that. Like you can go sell bots for like $1,000 a pop and make 10 grand in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, or sell them for 5,000 a pop and make even more. Like, yeah, since I started going hard on this, I've already outpaced my, like what my annual, like what my earnings are from one of my contracts. And I get paid pretty well on those.
Just on the side.
Just on the side.
Bot development.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about like I'm spending hours here. I'm talking about a bot, a really serious bot that, you know, might take me less than like 2 hours to build for someone.
Yeah.
But again, that's a lot of knowledge packed into those 2 hours. So
yeah. Yeah. But I think, and you know, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was, you know, once again, I mean, I think people can see he's taken the corporate jobs, but he's kept his own thing and kept learning on top.
Yeah.
And at any point, let's just say your side consulting really heats up. You know, there's a massive, even more demand for bots. You could just go all in on that.
Yeah.
And if that dries up, he's right back to the corporate, or he goes startup, get some equity. So
yeah, I'm not stuck on the whole hardcore serial entrepreneurialism.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of comfort. So because I'm not in a job that's like super stressful, like it could be, but it's also like we have a real design, like we are one of the most privileged to have such a work-life balance.
Yeah.
Maybe outside of an agency. Agencies, they're a little crazy. So, but yeah, if you work in design, like for the most part, you have a pretty well balanced like work-life balance. Like you literally get to think for a living.
Yeah.
Like that's most of our job is you get to think, and then then you spend a few hours on Figma or whatever. But like you're just using a lot of brain power. So like coming up with strategies and ideas. You're driving ideas into people. Like how like cool is that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, that's really cool. Like you literally get paid for your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing that, you know, when people are considering careers, you know, he's able to work on cool things that he could show people. Hey, remember that Madden screen or this or that, or how you were doing this on the Star Wars game, but also totally be independent with his own kind of side hustle that could develop into a full thing too.
Yeah.
So,
and you know, it has. I don't think like I'm just young, so like I have the energy, so it's like I'm gonna cash it as much as possible until I can't.
Yeah, and it's so different from other career. Like if you're a project manager, you're not really. Yeah, you can maybe take some side. It's just different. It's tough.
Yeah, no, it's a different type of tax on your energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So, okay. So before we go home, where can people find you if they're interested in, obviously the bots? Seems like that's kind of like a lot of what you're doing on the side now is the AI bots.
I'm really easy to find. It's my first and last name is my website, osirissantos.com. My Instagram is Osiris Santos. So I'm a very easy person to find. And Yeah, I'm also bad at like keeping up with my portfolio, so don't judge me on that. Like, I just put enough for people to want to mess with me. But like, if you need anything, just let me know what you need, and we'll always figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. This was great.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone considering UX, we'll look at our friends over at Springboard Boot Camps. They have a great UX course.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks again, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Great. All right, we'll catch you guys next time.